Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakah, Kadash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of GreatMillStone who rule well, and shalom to the hopeful elect. Okay, this video is going to be prophecy and news, delving into this article in the Telegraph, which reads, police stations close as French officers demand 248 million of unpaid overtime in day of protests. Okay, this article came out on the 19th of December, but it reads, police stations were closed on Wednesday and long queues formed at passport control booths as officers staged a black day of protest to demand better working conditions and pay. So now, the police staged a day of protest. This shows you that the time of, and really what I'm going to delve into, this shows you that the day of Jacob's trouble, no one's going to be exempt from it. Least you be one of the men of the Lord. And even if you're a man of the Lord, if you're one of the elect, it's coming to try your faith. Okay. Now, when you had the prophets of old, when they saw the day of the Lord, what did they say? Yeah, I believe Ezekiel, John the Baptist, if I'm correct, he said, "Woe is me no, it's Esdras. Woe is me, who shall save me from those days?" Basically, the time that we're heading into is going to be a pivotal time on the earth. It says a time like never before, and that's said twice in the book of Daniel and the book of Matthews. All right, so the time we're heading into is going to be crazy. So this little light protest that the police had shows you that this time is going to wear upon everyone, and this is just the test run. Several police unions urged officers to occupy their stations and refuse to work except in response to emergency calls. At France's busiest airport, Charles de Gaulle, in Paris, and the capital's second airport, Orly, border police engaged in go-slows. Officers complained that they have been overworked, deprived of days off, and forced to work unpaid overtime during a yellow vest protest, as well as in the unprecedented mobilization against the terror threat following the 2015 Paris attacks. So they've been working them like mules, basically, during this recent periods in Paris, basically, with all the terroristic threats and attacks that have been happening. They've been overstretched and overworked. Union leaders dismissed an offer of one-off €300 bonus for 11,000 officers on duty during more than 4 weeks of yellow vest protests as insufficient. Wow, so they're really lowballing them, man. £270 one off for all that effort that they're enduring. Okay, Bruno Le Maire, the finance minister, indicated that the government may bow to police demands for some 23 million hours overtime pay going back decades, amounting to 275 million euros. It seems legitimate that they be paid for extremely difficult work, he said. Police officers are also angry over what they say is ancient equipment, including helmets, riot control gear, rundown barracks, and proposed budget cuts for 2019. And we know police, they're light work, man. Because what's really happening is the militarization of the police. You have a program over in America known as a 1033 program, where they're basically handing down the weapons and equipment that were utilized by American officers, American army or military personnel overseas. They're giving them armored vehicles and assault rifles and whatnot, and different forms of artillery to use. Okay, and really, that's how they're bolstering their the government security forces known as the police. Okay, so when you have these guys on the lower side of things, with the average police down there dealing with the rioting, they're not really taking care of them like that, because they got the main function. They're looking to militarize the police. This is just them testing the waters, basically. Okay, but they're really like over in England, they got special armed force units, and they're trying to bolster them as opposed to the regular police, okay? Because they're the people that are really going to be out there in force when this thing goes down, okay, controlling the masses of the people. And those regular police, or those, even like you have over here, community support police, which are basically do the same job as the police, but with less pay and with less, not responsibility, but less powers. They're basically going to be shortchanging that day, okay? So it says the yellow vest protest, the yellow vests are demonstrators across France who began protesting in response to the President Emmanuel Macron's fuel tax. The protesters wear bright yellow vests, which are required by law in all cars in France as a symbol of their resistance. The movement began as a protest against Mr. Macron's decision to increase tax by 6.5 cents on diesel and 2.9 cents on petrol per litre from January 1st. The fuel tax was said to favour the richest members of society and leave others behind. Mr. Macron has said that the rise was necessary to combat climate change. Damn. And they got the same thing going over here in London. Now, you have certain boroughs within London. I believe it's mainly Islington, Hackney, and what's the other one? Islington, Hackney, and I know the City of London, Central, but I believe there was another borough where basically they're all 20 miles per hour driving zones, so you can't go faster than 20 miles per hour. Okay, and that's a way whereby they're restricting the amount of fuel consumption and energy consumption within those boroughs and those areas. But also, I remember a brother told me, he basically said, told me that they're basically making it as to where in certain boroughs now, you're only allowed to use electric cars, okay? And that's coming in a year or so from now, okay? So it's a means for them, you know, to make greater forms of money and whatnot, okay? The government has since made concessions to the protests in the hope of stopping violence and increasing unity. Mr. Macron promised to scrap the fuel tax increase and has frozen electricity and gas prices for 2019. But protests have continued as some yellow vests demonstrate broader economic frustrations. Bruno Le Maire, the finance minister, has called the situation a crisis for the French economy. Christopher Castaner, the interior minister, failed to reach agreement with the union leaders on Tuesday. Talks resumed on Wednesday, but he warned that it would take time to find solutions and urged police to engage in discussion rather than protest. Okay, Frederic Lagache, deputy leader of Alliance Police Union, said, "In the face of irresponsibility by the government, we are forced to be responsible for our actions." The unions have come under fire from critics who complained that their much publicized go slow was a green light for criminals and even terrorists, but leaders responded that they would still be ready to respond rapidly to an emergency. Okay, so that's what they're trying to say. They're trying to blame, if there was a terrorist attack, they would have blamed it on the police. Okay, police do not have the right to strike under French law. The police go slow comes as a yellow vest protest appears to be calming down, although motorway toll stations have been torched and many roadblocks remained across France on Wednesday. Hardliners said that they would demonstrate in Paris and other cities this weekend for the sixth consecutive Saturday, despite complaints by retailers that their businesses were being jeopardized just before Christmas. Okay, so all these things basically, that event itself shows you that no one ain't safe from this coming time of judgment, and a lot of people are really gonna be, and the police, for example, they're gonna be disenchanted by the government in the time of Jacob's trouble, man. They're gonna be trying to survive just like another man out here as well, man. Because Revelation 3:10, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, because it's going to be an hour of temptation where the whole world is going to be tempted, which is going to go on to say, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. So there ain't going to be no one that's going to be spared from this moment. And that's why it's more, this is why we've been set up, appointed as the watchman over the house of Israel. And you got people like IYC, Nate Satan, okay, and all the different false teachers, ISUPK, with Degenerate Johanna, and these other people out there that once were part of GreatMillStone, which have broken off and start to do their own thing, but corrupted the doctrine and the teaching, basically making it as to where they're leading Israel astray. Okay, but this is the time. Really, if you want to get the truth, you gotta go to GreatMillStone, and that's it, man. Because basically, the time we're heading into, man, is gonna be unforgiving if you're not prepared. Okay, all the tools are being given onto you at this point in time, but if you don't take heed at this time, when it comes down, you're gonna be like the 5 virgins that were unwise and they didn't have oil for their lamps. Okay, so you know and it shows you with that parable, they were wise enough to try and get oil, but it was too late, man, because they knew they knew about the oil, but they weren't wise enough to get it when it was there for the taking. So with that, I pray you're edified. Shalom.